Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to demystify the dense and honestly sometimes overwhelming architecture of modern project management. If you manage projects, you already know that the rules of the game have fundamentally changed over the last few years. So today we're taking a highly structured approach to break down exactly how the 12 principles of project management, the 8 performance domains, and the 5 classic process groups all integrate into one cohesive, highly effective system. Let's get started.
Okay, let's dive into this. Why did the standard for project management even need such a massive overhaul in the first place? Well, as this highlights, rapid market disruptions and emerging technologies completely transformed how we work. Think about how iterative software development or massive global supply chain shifts made rigid instruction manuals practically obsolete overnight. Sticking to a strict step-by-step checklist? Yeah, that just wasn't working for every team anymore. The whole profession had to shift from strictly checking boxes to focusing on adaptable, value-driven outcomes that actually solve real-world problems.
Now, to really understand where we are right now, we kind of have to look back at where we came from. Historically, project management frameworks were incredibly process-heavy. We're talking heavily prescriptive lists of required inputs and outputs. It's like trying to build a modern smart house, but blindly following a rigid instruction manual from 1985, completely ignoring what terrain you're building on or what materials you actually have. The modern, principle-based system completely changes that dynamic. It gives us a broad architectural philosophy. It provides the core building codes and standards, but it trusts you, the intelligent builder, to adapt your specific techniques based on the unique environment you're working in.
To make sense of all this dense theory, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The project management evolution. 2. The 12 guiding principles. 3. 8 project performance domains. 4. 5 essential process groups. And finally, 5. Unifying the value system.
Section 1. The project management evolution, from prescriptive laws to foundational guidelines. Let's set the stage to see exactly how foundational guidelines officially replace those outdated prescriptive laws. Section 2. The 12 guiding principles, the why of our project. If we stick with our house-building analogy, these 12 principles are our foundational building codes that dictate all of our decision-making and professional behavior throughout the entire build.
We can actually split these 12 principles right down the middle into 2 distinct categories. The first 6 focus intensely on people and culture, specifically stewardship, team, stakeholders, leadership, change, and adaptability and resilience. These set incredibly high expectations for moral conduct and emotional intelligence. They're all about being a caring, transparent steward of company resources, fostering collaborative teams, and engaging your stakeholders in a really meaningful way so you don't end up building something nobody wants. And notice, none of these principles tell you exactly how to write an email or what agenda to use in a stand-up meeting. Instead, they just set the standard for the collaborative, resilient environment you absolutely must create to succeed.
Now, what's really interesting about this next group is how the remaining 6 principles shift our focus strictly towards strategy and execution. We're talking about a focus on value, systems thinking, tailoring, navigating complexity, optimizing risk responses, and building quality. This is where we make sure we're actually delivering high-quality project outcomes. It's about maintaining a relentless focus on business value, recognizing through systems thinking how different departments and workflows physically interact, skillfully managing really complex variables, and ensuring quality is baked right into everything we do, not just bolted on as an afterthought right before launch.
Section 3. 8 project performance domains, the what of our framework. With our overarching building codes established, we move to the concrete areas we manage. If the principles are the blueprint, the domains are the interactive, overlapping rooms and physical systems of our house, like the plumbing, the electrical, and the framing.
Let's look at these 8 interrelated areas. Everything from empowering your team and aligning stakeholders to managing uncertainty and tracking measurement. The absolute most critical takeaway here? These domains are not siloed phases that happen one after another. No way, you don't just do your stakeholder domain and then confidently move on to the project work domain. These run concurrently. Every single day, you are constantly managing the team, handling unforeseen uncertainty, tracking KPIs, and keeping an eye in the development lifecycle throughout the entire duration of any project. It requires holistic, ongoing attention. And this brilliantly illustrates the dynamic between what we've covered so far. You've got those high-level principles sitting right at the top, acting as a behavioral umbrella. They literally pour down to guide our actions within those circular, highly interactive performance domains below.
It's this continuous feedback loop of applying our core ethical and strategic values to the messy, complex realities of actual project work.
But wait, how do we practically apply those abstract principles to those broad domains in a way that actually makes sense for our specific day-to-day reality? Well, the magic word is tailoring. Tailoring is the connective tissue linking the why and the what. It's incredibly important to understand that this entire system is completely methodology neutral. Tailoring means you have the ultimate freedom to use agile sprints, traditional waterfall schedules, or hybrid methods. Whatever specific approach fits the terrain best to actually get the job done and deliver value to your client.
So, how do we do it? We methodically apply tailoring using 4 specific steps to customize our project management system. First, we select our initial approach, deciding if we need a highly predictive waterfall timeline or an adaptive agile one. Step 2, we tailor it for the organization, meaning we actively adjust for your company's specific compliance frameworks or HR governance. Step 3, we dial it in for the unique constraints of the project itself, like tight budgets or maybe a scattered remote team. And finally, step 4, as the work progresses, we implement ongoing improvement by reflecting on what is and isn't working.
Section 4. 5 essential process groups, the how of execution. We've comprehensively covered the why and the what. Now, this is our traditional chronological construction schedule that organizes the actual execution of the manual labor.
So the crucial point here is that while modern project management relies heavily on principles and domains to be super adaptable, the physical work still requires an organizing structure to prevent total chaos, right? These 5 familiar steps logically group our processes, but keep in mind, while they neatly organize the timeline on paper, they are often highly iterative in reality. You're likely going to cycle through planning, executing, and controlling multiple times as project requirements naturally shift before you ever cross the finish line to closing.
Let's look closely at the first 2 phases. Initiating is all about getting the official green light to break ground, obtaining that formal authorization, usually through a signed project charter that aligns the sponsor's vision. Once you're approved and funded, we move immediately into planning. This is where we draw up the highly specific, actionable plans. We're meticulously defining our scope, schedule, and cost baselines so every single person on the team knows exactly what is required to attain our objectives without falling victim to massive scope creep.
Next up, we logically group execution and control together. Executing is literally putting hammers to nails, completing the actual defined work with your team. But actually, scratch that. How do you know if you're building the right room? That is exactly where monitoring and controlling steps in. We track our progress against those rigid baselines we established in the planning phase to regulate our performance. We are constantly identifying any variances in budget or timeline and actively initiating changes to get back on track when we inevitably drift.
Finally, we reach the closing process group. This is the official step of handing over the keys to the completed house. You know, a project isn't done just because the work is finished. We must formalize it. We finalize all administrative activities, formally transfer ownership and training of the final deliverables to the stakeholders, release our team members to their new assignments, and properly archive our documents while conducting a retrospective to capture lessons learned for the next build.
Section 5. Unifying the value system. We have principles, we have domains, and we have process groups. Let's move to and see how this all builds together into a single, cohesive engine for actual value delivery.
So, what does this all mean? If you're looking at this dense architecture, you might be asking yourself this pivotal question. With so many moving parts, how do you practically operate with principles, domains, and process groups all running at the exact same time without dropping the ball?
Well, here is the definitive answer that firmly unifies our entire analogy. The 12 principles, those are our unwavering building codes, setting our ethical and strategic standards across everything we do. The 8 performance domains are the interactive systems of the house we are actively managing every single day, from the stakeholders to the team. And the 5 process groups serve as our iterative chronological schedule to actually get the physical structure built. They don't compete, they collaborate. They rely on each other to form a complete, modern project management system. Which leaves us with this final thought. You now deeply understand the blueprint, the overlapping systems, and the execution schedule. The PMBOK 7 framework is explicitly designed for incredible flexibility, but that means it requires strict intentionality from you. As your projects continue to evolve and grow more complex, how will you systematically customize this powerful modern system to drive real success in your next big initiative? Take these concepts, apply them directly to your daily workflow, and I'll see you in the next explainer.